and I can see your screen.
Okay, I'm Rose Chenoweth. You can see my picture there. I'm not dressed like that, but that gives you a general idea of what I'm looking at. I'm director of the Illinois Talking Book Outreach Center and have been in the 4 years of our existence. As you're probably aware, we will be consolidating with the State Library Talking Book and Braille service as of August 31st, 2017. So we're just a little over 3 months away from that. I will be talking today about what we and the Talking Book and Braille service do, how service will continue, and what we hope you can do to help us make this success a venture, because our whole model is changing and we will need your help. There. Had to look for my little arrows to change screens. We both have mission statements and they're very similar, so a lot of what you see today will be a mix of the Illinois Talking Book Outreach Center and what the State Library does. This is their formal mission and it serves for the state. The Talking Book and Braille service supports the activities of the Illinois network of libraries serving the blind and physically handicapped in providing excellent public library service. We consider ourselves a public library service to any Illinois resident who is unable to read standard prints due to a permanent or temporary visual or physical disability. I will go into more detail about this as we look at eligibility later on, but this gives you a general idea of what we do. Now, an overview of how the program runs in the country. This first and foremost is a federal program. It is tax supported. It came in existence in 1931. Now this is several years after World War I, but it actually started in response to serving a lot of the veterans who came back from World War I with low vision or were blinded, and they were seeking a service to get them help. It is written into the law, so anytime there is a change in the program, the law does have to be changed. And as an overview, the Library of Congress is really our parent organization. It's a department within the Library of Congress called the National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped that essentially runs the program. The NLF pays to record the books, purchase the players, and set the rule for our services. They do research and development. They meet all of us. We have conventions every other year. We all keep in touch on a regular basis through listservs, through emails. We're all connected. So first, we are a federal program. And then on the state level, we have a regional. Ours is called the Illinois State Library Talking Book and Braille Service. Now, all of the states in the United States are served, even though they don't all have offices within their states. There are a couple that are combined. Also, several of the U.S. territories are represented in this program. Within Illinois, we have a long history. I don't know, all of you are watching how long you've worked in libraries, but the library system started in the late 60s. And by 1975, all 18 library systems that were started were funding talking book sub-regionals. So we have the federal program, then we have regionals in the state, one for each, and then we have sub-regionals throughout the state. Now we started with 18, but they started merging together not many years after that to serve the areas as efficiently as they could. If you've been around a while, in 1994 to 1995, there were a lot of system mergers. There were problems with the state budget. I know that sounds familiar. And I worked for the Alliance Library System, and we were the consolidation of 4 library systems. And over the years, they have taken over not taken over, that sounds like we're walking in and demanding people join us. But a lot of the talking book centers merged over time, and we ended up in the Mid-Illinois Library System, Mid-Illinois Talking Book Center, of ending up becoming that and handled all of the territory outside the collar counties and Chicago with that service. And we were located in East Peoria. And this is from 2000 to 2010. In 2010, There were more consolidations of systems, and that's when we ended up with 3 systems. The Chicago Public Library is a system in itself. The Illinois Heartland Library System is Southern Illinois and part of Central Illinois, and Rails is the other part of Central Illinois on up to the Wisconsin border. So within those, in Geneva was the Voices of Vision Talking Book Center, and in Chicago was the Chicago Public Library Talking Book Center. There was also a machine center located in DuQuoin, Illinois. When we got into the budget impasse in 2016, well, actually, to go back a little bit, in 2013, in Rails, we combined the 2 talking book centers, which was Mid-Illinois and Voices of Vision, into the Illinois Talking Book Outreach Center. We were trying a new service model that there were only about, I think 7 or 8 of us around the country, and we were by far the largest to become an advisory outreach center. Our collections were moved to the state library. All of our books and all of our machines moved to the state library. So then we moved our center and named ourselves the Illinois Talking Book Outreach Center, and we're in Burr Ridge. Then the budget impasse came to be in 2016, and the funding just was not there. We were informed that the state library could no longer afford to fund us. And at that point in time, almost exactly a year ago, at the end of June in 2016, the Chicago Public Library Talking Book Center closed, the Machine Center closed, and all their services to their patrons went to the state library. Rails used their reserves to take over our funding for an additional year, so we had a good transition time to allow the state library to get used to going back into straight service to all the libraries, as well as doing all the books and all the machines for all the rest of Illinois as well. We are in a lot of ways a call center, and we do outreach and go to a lot of events around the state, primarily closest to our 2 service areas. We do have an office in East Peoria, and we have an outreach associate there who attends a lot of events. And down to Quincy, we do a lot in Champaign and Moline and a lot in Peoria and around the northern part of the state. As the outreach person here in Burr Ridge, I travel around to a lot of the collar counties, attending a lot of those events. And as we move, consolidate with the state library, that will no longer be possible. So that's one of the things we're concerned about looking at for help in serving. So now that Rails is coming to the end of that year, that transition year, we will be consolidating with the state library. And the 2 organizations will become one with the Illinois State Library. We'll give you a lot of contact information and things like that a little bit later. Now, one of the things that will happen, just for your information, to make it easier for our patrons as when they close the Chicago Public Library Talking Book Center, people in Chicago who receive services through the state library use the old 800 number from the Chicago Public Library. So there was no change for the patrons in Chicago on the number they called. And that will be the same with ITBOC, Illinois Talking Book Outreach Center. When you take our initials of first letter of each word, we're ITBOC. We will be using our same 800 number, which is shown on the left in the orange vertical rectangle. That will be the number our patrons can continue to call. Now let's talk a little bit about the services. These are some of our basics. Our service consists of books, magazines, and musical material in digital audio format and Braille formats. Now, the musical material is straight from National Library Services. They do that service directly. We can just sign people up for it. Materials are mailed directly to the patron's address. There is no postage required All items are sent as free matter for the blind and physically handicapped, both to them, and then they can turn over the address card, and the address on the back will be the place that they send the material back, and it again goes free matter for the blind and physically handicapped. So there is no charge for that. And that's one of the things that I say, notice the last bullet, is that I never ever say the service is free. Because when people are talking about cutting taxes, I want them to understand what they're cutting. So this is not something we volunteer to do. We're not just good citizens coming in and doing this for free. This is a tax-supported service. So if the IMLS disappears, a lot of the talking book centers around the country will disappear because they're totally federally funded. And how they will continue to operate is under question if that happens. So please call and support that if you can at all. This program was again established in 1931 to serve the veterans, and it's been upgraded and changed over the years due to the research and development. Now we'll talk a little bit more about the eligibility. Services provided to all Illinois residents. Now that's important to know because if you move, you don't just drop our service, you let us know and you let the people in the other state know, and we can transfer your membership to the new state that you move to. Now if we have a lot of patrons that move around, they stay with different people, you know, their families. They may have family all over around the country, and they'll go stay with different ones for several months. They may be snow bunnies that move for, you know, 3 to 6 months a year, and they will stay our membership unless they move there permanently. We have a lot of people that we send books to in Arizona and Florida in the winter, and vice versa. People come here to stay with relatives, and they stay members of their talking book facility regional in their own state, and we can facilitate the transfer service. Conditions may be permanent or temporary. Several years ago, a long time ago actually, I have a lot of allergies, and the medicine I was taking affected my eyes, so they flickered constantly, and I went on the program for a period of about a month only because I'm a readaholic. I have to have books. And when my eyes finally got back to normal, then I could go off the program and do other things. So there are a lot of situations that may be temporary. People who have strokes are often on the program until they go through rehab and regain a lot of their skills back, and then they go off the program. And there are also reading disabilities that qualify people for service. Now that is the one exception when we're certifying service, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. Reading disabilities have to be certified by a medical doctor. That is not something you can certify. Now, one thing that is less publicized that I really want to make a point of people, make sure everybody understands this. We have a lot of qualifying visual conditions, but then there's also physical conditions. Now, under eligibility, one of the things that you might suspect, or maybe never even thought of, is by far the majority of our patrons are older. A couple of years ago, I went through a lot of our statistics online and found that 135 of our patrons at that time were over the age of 100. The largest percentage are over 60, with even more over the age of 70. We have people of all age groups, but the majority by far are the elderly. And so there are different types of things that we can do, different ways that we manage service, depending on their age and the disability. So most people think of us as a low vision facility. We have a lot of people who are blind. A lot of the people lose their vision. The most common is through macular degeneration, and that's growing by leaps and bounds. A diabetic retinopathy is a close second. But then there are lots of other conditions like glaucoma and severe cataracts that can lead to be something that really seriously affects your vision. Injuries are another way that you might lose your vision temporarily. My mother, twice in her life, was mowing the lawn on a riding lawnmower and had a branch of an evergreen hit her eye and make a cut in the outer part of her eye, and was unable to see for that until it was healed. You never know how you could have injuries. We have a vision conference for parents of children with vision impairments twice, in 2 locations every March or April. And at one of those, I'm always running into children who have are having problems with their vision, and it's really uncanny sometimes the things that will affect their vision. One child prodigy, she was a wonderful musician, was trying a new acne medication. Apparently it was old, and there were warnings out there, but they were not aware of it, nor was her doctor, and she lost her vision in a matter of a couple of months. And so she was learning how to continue with her study of music and how to survive in the real world with very low vision that was fast receding. Now, the physical disabilities are one you hear less about, so we're going to please notice when people might qualify, even suggest the service if you know the person or feel comfortable doing so. A lot of these conditions are things like muscular dystrophy, Parkinson's disease. For example, their arms may move, they flap. My mother has Parkinson's, and they can't hold a book still enough so that they can read, and they would qualify for service. The same with cerebral palsy, if their hands don't work the way they need to read. Paraplegics, and you would have to reach out to them, because hearing about our service is something that is not something they're necessarily going to happen into. Severe arthritis, again, affects your ability to hold a book. There are lots of conditions that make the difference there. One of the questions that I get asked often that I do want to address here, because so that in case you're asked, you'll know what to answer. We get asked by a lot of relatives of people with dementia and want to sign people up for service. And I will tell you that a lot of our long-standing patrons, when they get older, do get dementia. And that's generally when they drop the program, because they can't pay attention long enough, follow a story to know what's really going on. They lose track of the characters. If they're reading a book, they may read the same page for an hour because they've lost it by the end of the paragraph. So this is not really a time to get into the service. It's usually a time that they drop out of it. Okay, this is a chance that will take about 5 minutes to take any questions that may have come up in the meantime, because I'm giving you a lot of information, and I know it might be that you want to ask questions.
Okay. Well, so far we have not received any questions, but I'll just put a reminder out there that if you do have questions for Rose, you can type those into your questions box or the chat at any time, and we'll address those at the next break.
Okay. Okay, this is how to apply. We do both have websites, and I'll give you that information. It's in our first bullet. Our website is shown on the green rectangle on the left, and that's at the bottom of that, www.illinoistalkingbooks.org. And here is the link for the Talking Book and Braille Service website. We both have downloadable applications. We can send you some applications, but you can always download those. You cannot fill them out online. You will need to print them off to fill them out and then mail them in. At this point, I'm suggesting you can still send them to us, but you might want to get into the practice of sending them to the Illinois State Library Talking Book and Braille Service. Their address is 300 South 2nd Street, Springfield, Illinois, 62701. And you probably send in your per capita grants. If it's been a while since I've worked with those, so I don't know if you send them in or if they're filed online. But that address should be somewhat familiar to you. We do ask when you're helping somebody to fill in an application, if you do, that you need to provide a contact point for somebody, a secondary contact, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people resist joining the program because they're holding on to their independence, and they feel like taking on a program like this is indicating that they're very vulnerable and they can no longer be independent. So they do fight that. Nobody knows they're getting it in the mail. It's just something that's within them on how they feel. So they may ask you why you need a secondary contact. Why, I did say earlier that a lot of people, especially ones who have lost their vision entirely, do live with relatives, sometimes far away, or sometimes they go into the hospital like anybody else, and the books will be coming in the mail and they'll be refused or returned to the post office. And if we have no way of finding out where they are, we'll shut down the service until they call us back. So we will contact a secondary contact, and if we feel like the person who certified the mail might certify their application might know, they might call them, because we want them to continue the service, and we just need to know whether they cancel them entirely. And that's why we need the contact. We also need people who are filling out the application to talk to them first about reading preferences, because we will call them later, but they need to be thinking about what they like to read. Then they can also, you can certify it if you're comfortable that you know the person and you understand the issue, unless, again, it is for a reading disability. They could also ask a doctor or a nurse in the facility, a nurse in a nursing home, an activity director in a nursing home, a social worker, others to verify the disability by signing the application on the second page. A reader advisor will call them after we get the application and do an interview with them specifically. And we do prefer to talk to the patron. A lot of times we get their children, their sons or daughters, who know what they're interested in or think they do. And often they think they do and they don't necessarily do. So it helps us to talk to the patron if at all possible, because we can narrow down what they're interested in. For example, I've had 3 calls in the last couple of years who people were really angry at the books they were getting. And the 3 I'm thinking of happened to all be men. And the more I talked to them, I found out that they'd all, because I can go in and check their preferences and the types of books that they're ordering and the things they're getting them, when they got them, when they returned them, that type of thing. And I found out that one of their main preferences, and in one case at least it was their only preference, was history. Now history is a very broad topic. As a reader advisor, a person who reads a lot, I know how broad it is. And the more I talked to them, the books that they got that they didn't like were like on the Roman Empire, the history of China, early exploration. And so one of the things we have to find out is what they don't like as well, to help them narrow down. And what all 3 of them, to a man, was that they really only wanted to read about World War II. That's a very specific part of history. So we have to talk to them in more detail to get what they don't like and what they do. So we can put in exclusions, and we can put in things that much more specific to make it much more appropriate for them. This is a picture of our digital player. Years ago, we started with very large record players. And I've met several people through the years who talk about those record players. And if you remember 16mm films, you know, the great big cases, 16mm films would come in through the mail. A lot of times if it was a large book, it would come in a case like that. So getting your books in the mail was, you had to be pretty strong, or somebody had to get the books to you. This is a much more portable machine, and we'll talk about even more portable machines, things that are coming up. Once the account is set up, patrons will receive a digital player in the mail. Now I'm using it free here because so many people, when they find the machine, are terrified they're going to be paying $100 for it. It, again, is paid for with their taxes. Now keep in mind, the majority of the people we deal with are elderly, and a lot of people prey on the elderly. There are a lot of scams out there. And that's why I make a point of saying you've already paid for this with your taxes. So this is a legitimate program through the federal government. The machines are very easy to use. You can see all the various buttons. And I tell them you only have to learn now just the buttons you absolutely have to know. And you can learn about the others as you need them and as you get familiar with them. When the machine is plugged in, it needs to charge up before you can use it, or you can use it while it's plugged in. When it's charged, you can unplug it and take it anywhere and use it, because we like to move around. Some people like to do their housework while they're playing the machine. Some people like to just sit and read or lay in bed, as they go to sleep at night to listen to a book. It varies dramatically with the person. So when you push the various buttons, like the number 1 button they have to know is the little round red button. Some people with low vision can see colors. Most of them, if they are not a paraplegic, are missing a limb or something, can feel the shapes of the buttons. The round red button is the power button. The green rectangle is the stop and go button. The arrows at each end either rewind or press or speed it up and move forward. My favorite button is the moon, because a lot of people that I talk to, generally if they're a little older, talk about they can read for 15 minutes and then they'll fall asleep. If you're feeling like that, you push the button and it'll play 15 minutes and then shut off automatically so you don't miss the book. If you press it twice, you get 30 minutes. There's a volume control to the right with the yellow arrow buttons going up and down. Other things that you can do is you can speed up the talk. People tend to speed up when they're listening to nonfiction, or if they're having a hard time following the conversation, they may play it a little slower. It depends. It's totally a personal choice. Also on the upper left are arrow buttons, and that will change the tone. If you have some hearing problems, you may change the tone so it's deeper and you're more likely to hear it. My father was hard of hearing and he could never hear me. But if I was recorded, he could have pushed the down arrow and got it into a deeper voice and been able to hear. So we have a lot of the accessibility issues built into that to make it much more friendly for people to use. There's also a place for a headphone jack. In that you can put in earbuds. There's a USB port where you can download books, which I'll talk about in a bit, and plug in a flash drive. There's a lot there to make it easier. There are also high volume players now available for patrons who are severely hard of hearing. You have to have an audiologist test your ears before you can apply for that, because otherwise it might even destroy your hearing. So it's very important to do that. The types of materials we have available, we have 84,000, and that's growing monthly, digital audio books available. Like in a public library, we have all different kinds of genres: mysteries, romances, bestsellers, travel and adventure, religion, biographies, all kinds of things. One of the things that I do tell people when I'm signing people up is if the only thing you want is a Bible, this is probably not the program to get that, because when you want a Bible, generally you want to keep it and refer to it all the time, not return it every 6 weeks. So there are organizations around the country, usually through churches, that record Bibles and may ask for a nominal donation, but they will send you a book that can be played on these players and you can keep it. And to keep yourself interested, it's nice to have lots of different types of things to read as well. But if you want joining just for the Bible, we can get that for you separately. We also have a lot of foreign language materials at this point in time. We have 28 different languages, and we have people, especially up here near Chicago, that request their language that they grew up with just to hear the pleasure of hearing their own language. Of course, our largest collection is in Spanish. We do have Polish, Korean, Chinese. We have 28 different choices. We have one woman who is, I think it's Latvian or Lithuanian, I get the two mixed up sometimes. And we have 28 books in that collection, and she just continues to order those so that she can listen to her language. her own language and her own stories. She's very familiar with the stories, but it's nice to hear it that way. We do have children's and YA books, but they are in the minority of the books that we have available. We have 7 digital magazines. A lot of these are also available in Braille, and patrons can sign up for those and get them. The magazines check out for 6 weeks. The books check out for 6 weeks, and the magazines checkout time varies by whether they're a weekly or a monthly or even a bi-monthly. So there is a lot available there for you to do. Now, one of our newer services, it's been around for a few years now. Well, let me back up. I skipped a slide and didn't realize I did that. The materials available, we do have a lot of Braille books and magazines, and we have a contract with the Utah State Library Program for the Blind and Disabled, and that's where the blind materials come from. If people want to read Braille, we generally request those from a multi-state center. There are 2 of those in the country, one on the east side of the Mississippi River and the other on the west side. And we can borrow those for a while to see if you're going to be ordering things regularly. If you are, then we'll sign you up for the Utah State program, and you will be getting books and magazines on a regular basis. We have descriptive DVDs and videos. That is a relatively small collection. I'm not sure anything's being added to it. There might be a few now and then. There are a large percentage of them are videos, and then the rest are DVDs. Now, if you don't know what a descriptive video or DVD is, let me give you an example. I have talked to a lot of people who have low vision or no vision who no longer watch television. And you can get television shows that watch it now, especially if they have a cable, because they have to, by FCC requirements, they have to provide so many of their programs on major channels to have descriptive video. Now imagine you're watching something like CSI or a lot of the high adventure programs. And imagine if you're listening to it with a video, if you're at a movie theater or if you're watching television. Now you can hear the voices talking. You may not know who's talking until you pick up on who has what voice. But suddenly you may hear a door slam and a motor start and drive away. You don't know who left. You don't know who's in the car. You don't know what happened. You can't see expressions. You can't interpret that. So in between the conversations, there is a description of somebody huffs out of the room, slams the door, and drives to their car and drives away. Somebody else is reached down to pet the dog and is crying, because you may not be able to tell that just by listening. So the descriptive videos help you get the full enjoyment out of what's happening. There are still a lot of old-time radio shows, although those are fast wearing out. We are a member of iRead, and we did purchase a lot of old-time radio shows to be on iRead, and so those can be listened to through that program. We have lots of newsletters and booklets, and the Talking Book Topics is our bi-monthly catalog, essentially, of all the new items that have come out in the last 2 months, and those are sent regularly. Now we'll go to the slide I thought I was going to the last time. BARD is been new in the last about 7 or 8 years, and it means Braille and Audio Reading Download. About 18 to 20% of all of our circulation in the state is by downloaded books. The Talking Book program may be downloaded, and you can even download Braille books and read them with the refreshable Braille tool. And if you need a description of that, call me afterwards and we can explain that to you. But it gives patrons free and immediate access to thousands of titles. A lot of times they appear on BARD before they're produced physically, even if they are produced physically. It saves money to download, to create books in this format, and not everything that's been created this way has a physical format. So if you have a friend or relative that can download books for you, if you're not someone who can do it yourself, A lot of people who are elderly are on fixed incomes, and you know, there's only so much technology that you can learn till you just get fed up. And at that point, you may need some help downloading books and using these. I've talked to several people who download books for, you know, their grandmother, their mother, their father, for friends. It's just a wonderful thing to do for people if you're willing to do that. And a really nice thing about this is, imagine not being able to see or have read regular print. This is a way that people can create their own libraries. Some people literally download every book that comes out on Bard. Now, I'm a voracious reader, but there's a lot of books that would bore me to tears or I'm just not interested in. But they do it so that they have this wonderful library and they can go and just browse the collection and read whatever they feel like reading at that point in time. So that is a real advantage of that program. Now, in the last couple of years, there's been another advance, and that's called Bart Mobile. It is taking Bard, the Braille and audio reading download, and make it immediately downloadable to your smartphone or to your tablet. And you can listen to the books right then without going through the intermediary of downloading books to your computer, downloading it to a flash drive, and then plug it into your player. You can play them on your smartphone, which includes Kindle Fire devices, and you can do it on your tablets. The free app is available, and this is free. Anybody can download the app, but you have to get it approved through being a member of our program, and that's what makes it work. I have it on my phone now, but I have not got it approved through the program, so that I don't actually play any books on it, but I can show people what the app looks like. Bart Mobile is easy to use. I've been utterly floored by how easy some people who have picked up on how it is to use. Now, if you have voiceover or talkback, they explain quickly how to do some of the things. It's really cool to watch somebody who's been blind since birth do all the gestures so that they can get their books on their iPhone. It's remarkable how quickly some people learn that. I personally have had a lot of trouble learning the iOS devices, so when I watch people who can't see go through it, I feel really stupid because I have not picked up on that as quickly as they have. Another thing that's come out in the last year or so is Bart Express. It makes downloading books on your regular computer much quicker of a process. It makes things a lot more fun so that it can just happen so much easier. We have this wonderful group of libraries in the Old North suburban area of Rails. There's 8 libraries that come together and put on a vision fair every April or May. And they, at that event, I think it was first week or so in May that I went this year, I ran into a guy that downloaded books for 2 people, and he was at the vision fair even though he had no vision issues because he wanted to learn what was available for the people that he helped, which was really, really nice to hear. And he loves Bart Express. And there are a lot of people out there that like to see the advances. They may be intimidated by using Bart to begin with, but it gets easier and easier over time. Now, how to order books. You can always call the 800 number. People can call us and do regularly, keeping in mind that we serve all the state right now outside the city of Chicago, and sometimes there are people waiting in line to call us. But if you leave a message, we can get back to you and call you back and answer your requests for books. A lot of times people will call and say, do we have a book? And if we don't, we may be able to enter a line of Braille loan it from somewhere else in the country, or tell you it's on order, or tell you it's not available. One of the things to tell people if you're talking to them about our service is to also get a library card, because there are a lot of things that have been recorded that are not in our service that are available commercially. And they can get them through your library. They might be interlibrary loanable from other libraries in the system. So we all work together to get people their books. They can email requests to us at info@talkingbooks.org, or at the State Library. It's ISLTBBS@ilsos.net. And then we also, on both of our websites, which the one for the State Library is listed here, we both have access to the web OPAC. They can get an account in that and set up their own account and order books, and it'll come to them automatically. When we're setting up their profiles, we ask, they can call in and ask us for specific books, but we also like to set up a profile of subject interests and authors they like, so they'll be sent automatically. And then there's this also where you can go in and search yourself. Again, I remind you of the Talking Book Topics that comes up biannually, monthly, not annually. That would be really sad. But they will probably, if they're low vision, they can probably read the large print Talking Book Topic themselves. But you may want to help somebody with low vision read that catalog and help them order books by marking out the form that's sent with it, clicking the numbers of the books that they want, or emailing or calling in. These are our two websites, and I suggest that you check them both out. I would especially recommend that you go to our website now and download and copy anything you want. It will be available but harder to find later because it will exist permanently, but it will say that, you know, it's been shut down, so it won't be really interactive. But we do have a section that's called Partners, and it was developed especially with our library partners in mind. We have a PowerPoint that you can download and use to train your staff, or use when you're speaking to organizations, or just to learn more about our program. We have handouts on there. We have applications you can apply for. You can download some of our pamphlets. We can connect you with a lot of different services and things through that. So do check us out. The State Library Talking Book and Braille service has added some changes to theirs, and they will be updating that as they go. There's lots of great information on there. They have lots of links to other organizations, radio information services, and other things like that that can help you. This is the detailed information on how to contact the State Library. Now, when this program is done, I'm going to be sending this PowerPoint to Louise, and she will turn it into a PDF and load it on the web, on the L2?
The Rail CE Archives page.
The Rail CE Archives page, so you can look at it at any time to contact all of this information, or we can give it to you separately if you call us, because that's the information we contact regularly. The director of the regional is Sharon Ruda. She has signed up for this program. So I don't know if she's attending right now or if she will be listening to it later, like a lot of people who signed up for the program. They have multiple 800 numbers. There's one for the Chicago people who call in. There will be the ITBOC number, 800-426-0709. They will take over that line on September 1st. And then they have their regular number, a general information number, and a fax. You can fax your applications there. There's the email address for Sharon Ruda and the general information. As they take on more employees, they will be hiring several new reader advisors. So when they patrons call our 800 number, there will just be a different voice at the end of the line. And again, is the mailing address for the State Library. As I mentioned earlier, veterans were the reason that the program was started after World War I, and they continue to be a high priority for service. The Hines Hospital is up here in the collar counties, and they sign up a lot of people who have got former military personnel who come in for training to handle their low vision and blindness, and they sign them up for service as they go through the training. So we are contacted almost daily with applications for new patrons from there. Our patron testimonials are just really incredible. Now, I've worked in all types of libraries in my long career. I started in school libraries when I went back to get my master's degree. I worked in the University of Illinois library. I've worked since then primarily in public libraries and systems, and there's never a place that I've worked where you get more appreciation for your service than working with Talking Books, because we are literally a lifeline for a lot of the people that we work with. You know, if you have a condition that you can't get out, the older you get and the disabilities that you have, it makes it much more complicated to get out. We may be the only voice they hear in a week. We are the ones that provide a lot of the entertainment that they have. When nobody is visiting, or they're visiting much less often, a lot of times we become their whole world. And they tell us every time they call. They may call us up to yell at us because they didn't like their last book, but I appreciate everything you've sent me. You are a wonderful service. So it's really a pleasure to work for this organization because we know we're making a difference in people's lives. I always knew that wherever I worked, but never more so here. It's just a true pleasure, and I hope you get to experience that yourself. So before I go into Talking Book Ambassadors, are there any questions now?
Yes, we did get a couple questions. Earlier you talked about the high volume players. Do they get those, the question was, do they get those through ITBOC or through TBBS? I mean, how does somebody get a high volume player?
They fill out a special application, and actually all the machines come from the state library, but they can talk to either of us, and we can get that started.
Okay.
But again, you will have to be tested by an audiologist to make sure it's safe.
Okay, and then the other question was just confirming the 800 number for ITBOC.
It's at the bottom of all the slides on the left, 1-800-426-0709.
And that number will still be valid after the transition, right?
Yes, it will.
Okay. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for your questions we've received so far, and please type more in as you think of them, and we'll try to answer as many as possible before the end of the webinar. Oh, wait, one more came in. Okay, real quick, sorry. So are BARD titles also available in foreign languages?
I understand that there's Spanish being added to that, but the other languages, no, they're not.
Okay.
What they're actually running into, we're in a transition period that we're hoping will turn out positively. Except for the new Spanish titles, all the foreign language ones are in cassette, and they were easier to get. Years ago, they would get them directly from the country, so people are listening to authors that are popular in their own language. But they've been trying to do that since we turned to the digital format and have been unable to do that. So it's still something they're working on, but not having much success. So how that will turn out, you'll have to check with the state library. I, check once a year to see if that's changing.
All right, well, that's it for now. Thanks, Rose.
Okay. We do need your help. When ITBOC came into existence, we realized just how vast our state is. Because we would like to travel to Southern Illinois, but it's quite a distance to travel. Beth Weimer, who's our outreach person in East Peoria, and I travel a lot. We generally don't travel more than 3 hours and generally try to keep that an hour or two from where we are. But that leaves a lot of territory we can't get to. When we were in our smaller institutions, like when we had 18 systems, get from one border to another of a system didn't take that long to travel. So we were able to go to just about anybody who invited us. But the larger we get, the harder that is. And we would like to ask you to be our ambassadors to handle the Talking Books, the nursing homes and the hospitals and the other organizations in your community learn about us. So to be an ambassador, first we'd like you to advocate for the service and for these patrons, essentially. The easiest thing you can do is sign up for an institutional account. And with that institutional account, you receive a digital player for your library that you can use to demonstrate what they will actually be getting. Because, you know, when you're flying blind, you don't know if you're going to be billed for a player later. You don't know if it's huge or if it's tiny, what's involved. And this takes some of the fear out of it, because that's one of the first things I get asked when they walk up to my table at a senior fair. We also send a sample books, and the libraries can sign up to receive books regularly, so you're not playing the same book all the time to demonstrate. Patrons can handle the machine, play with the buttons, see how it works, and just take some of the mystery out of what's happening. Then you can make sure that all your staff know about Talking Book Services. You can use that PowerPoint that's on our website, and the State Library is thinking about adapting that PowerPoint for their own use. And I hope they can, so that it will continue to be available. If you want a copy of it, you can download it and save it. If you have difficulties with that, let us know and we can do it for you as well. And check back. We may be doing some upgrades of things before we close our doors for the State Library to take over. So the PowerPoint is good. A lot of our handouts are good. Look at the catalog. Just get a feel for what this online library is like. You can do a display of equipment, posters, brochures, applications. ITBOC or TBBS, we both have materials that we can send you. As we're downsizing, we have a lot of those types of things that we can send you for you to keep. Otherwise, at the end of August, we will be sending all those on to the State Library, and you should be able to get some of those from them as well. Do understand the eligibility requirements, visual, physical, and reading disabilities. What's required for those? You do need to have a person, you need to meet the person whose application you're signing. If the person's not there, then you need to give them the application, whoever's asking for it, and ask that the doctor sign it. Because you can't certify that somebody has this disability if you've not met the person. You can also speak to low vision groups, and there's a surprising number of those out there. Some low vision groups meet in their parks departments. I've met parks departments that have their own low vision groups that they have formed. Some libraries have started low vision groups. They've started low vision book clubs where they can discuss the same books, and they talk to us, or talk to the State Library. We're essentially the same thing, so that they can order books and discuss those and read those ahead of time. Think of services that you can do that will benefit these people. And they may be books that you have copies of in your recordings or can get from other libraries. Speak to the low vision groups and service organizations. This is like senior fairs. Some communities, I was, sometime in the last month, I think, I was in Niles, and they had, it was a wonderful senior fair that was taking place in the golf mall, and Dodie was the person that's from the State Library, was not from the State Library, the Niles Library. I was in Niles, and she said that they had 2 senior fairs in that city every year, and that happens in a lot of communities around here. There are very large senior expos or disability expos that are wonderful to attend. You can see at the vision fairs, if you're lucky enough to have one around you. For example, if you have connections with the Chicago Lighthouse, they put on a lot of vision fairs. You can go and see a lot of the tools that are available that people can use, and recommend those to your patrons that you know would benefit from them. Put them in your newsletters or something so that they hear about them, because you can't attend and learn if you're not aware these are happening. And if you just learned that you are getting lower vision, somebody needs to tell you these things exist. You can assist patrons. So to begin with, on the last slide, you were sending out knowledge, just getting them connected, but you weren't actually assisting them. So with this, you're going to help them actually fill out and send in an application. Librarians, teachers, and medical professionals can sign those. They are also recruiting people by, recognizing people that need the service and offering them for them. One of the things I will say to you, especially if you go to a senior fair or a vision fair, but especially senior fairs, there are a lot of people just, their macular degeneration is getting worse. And I have a lot of people who come in and say, I don't need it yet. Part of it is, it's a grieving process. When you start losing your vision, you go through stages, and it's a grieving process. And it's only at a certain point that you're willing to try new things, because you have to accept the condition before you're willing to try it. So if somebody comes to a senior fair and you mention this to them and they don't seem amenable, just say, keep this in mind and tell your other friends about this service. So when they're ready to do it, they will know that they can come back and you will help them. But don't push it on them. There are a lot of children that are adult children who are trying to sign their parents up, and the parents quits before they get their first book in the mail because, no, they don't need this. And that means they haven't yet accepted what's going on. And some of them do come back to us later and do it and sign up when they're ready. And that's one of the things you have to be sensitive to. You can teach patrons, you can order books for patrons, but only things that are delivered to their home. You can't become the center where they receive all the books. We've made a few exceptions, but that's something that it really needs to go to their home. If people, sometimes they'll bring in their machines that don't work, and you can send those back. You can call us and tell us what the problems are, because usually the recording, the batteries are getting so they don't hold a charge as long, and we can send them a new machine. If they have problems, you might be able to articulate it a little better. Some people are just intimidating calling strangers, and if you're somebody who they've come to all along, it's nice to have that familiar person make that contact. Please consider being that. You can assist patrons with downloading books. Now, it's very different from what the other, like Kindles and Nooks and that type of thing. But we can train you in that. We have one of our reader advisors that goes out and trains people in this area and some farther south. But again, distance is an issue. We can send you instructions. But that is something you might want to consider. If you have a homebound service, please keep aware with the people who do the home deliveries, if it seems like somebody would also benefit from joining this program or getting your recorded books. That is the great untapped audience that really needs our services. We've worked with various home health care agencies to get that information as well, because they are less likely to hear about us unless they hear from people who visit their homes and help them. You can add assistive technology to your collection. If you've ever gone to a vision fair, and they're really fascinating, I really recommend that you get to do that once in a while. They have large magnifiers. They have CCTVs that make it possible to read things that you wouldn't think would be possible until they're completely blind, if they will ever get completely blind. It's one thing you can have available or show them how to use so that they can choose what they want to participate in. You can put a screen reader on a computer so that they can come in and use your computers. There are other technology things that you can do. One of the things I do recommend, if you ever get a chance, especially with people who serve the homebound, if they can visit the Illinois Assistive Technology Center in Springfield, it's a wonderful, wonderful place to visit. They serve all kinds of people with disabilities, and they have lots of tools available that they can show you that can make your life easier to live, just your regular life. And they will do some training in some cases with the budget impasse. They have had some cutbacks as well. The services have changed somewhat, but it is very interesting to see something like that and know what's possible. Essentially, we are an online library because you can get our catalog online, you can get it in print, and some people will come and visit us, but it's not really the same experience. Now, if they really want to visit a library that has books in it, they would need to go to the state library because that's where all the collections are located. Now, that's quite a drive for some people, but you can access that catalog on our website. And I would recommend that if you have our widget to put on your website that would connect them directly with Illinois Talking Book Outreach Center, it's time to change that widget to the Illinois State Library Talking Book and Braille widget. Here is the link for that. We did send that out in the Rails newsletter, and if you call us, if you don't get it while this slide is up, you can get it when it's on our archive, or you can just call us and we can send that to you as well. Check out our resources on our and the Talking Book and Braille Service website. Again, that Partner Resource Service tab is something you need to be checking out now, sooner rather than later, so that you can copy anything that you can. Now, Beth has created several tutorials and handouts that will help you use some of the services. Feel free to download those and keep them handy and teach yourselves. Call her or call Catherine Patrick here in the Burr Ridge office, and they are our official tutors, although most of the reader advisors can answer questions on iRead, using the machines, how to download books, and all that type of thing. But a lot of our reader advisors, 4 of them have worked here over 20 years. They have a lot of knowledge to share. Take advantage of them while they're here. The State Library is wonderful as well, but we have the longest term reader advisors, and they can share a lot of knowledge with you. So please talk to them. Thank them for their service. They would be glad to hear from you. Other resources are the Illinois Radio Information Services. Now, one of the things that people miss the most if they were a reader, especially older readers, they're used to reading newspapers and magazines and that type of thing, is hearing, still keeping that contact. The Illinois Radio Information Services has offices in several campuses around the state. In Chicago, it's Chris Radio, and I think it's through the Chicago Lighthouse. There's one at the University of Illinois. There's one at Western Illinois University. There's one at Bradley. They're all around the state, and they will be reading newspapers and things that are more local. There's 2 organizations that serve the blind, National Federation of the Blind and the Council of the Blind. And the National Federation of the Blind has something called Newsline, and it has over 300 national newspapers, including 6 from Illinois. They have audio readings available 24/7 via touch phone or online, and we send out applications for that service. And that's both the State Library and us. And again, here's the contact information for the Illinois Assistive Technology Program, because again, that's a wonderful field trip. We thoroughly enjoyed that. And also, I want to remind you that we do have a lot of pamphlets and posters and the State Library fact sheets available to send you. A lot of these things are available to download as well. We also have Talking Book Ambassador pins, P-I-N-S, that if you're interested, that we can send them to you individually, or we can send several for you for your staff to acknowledge that you know about this and you're available to talk to people about talking books. We need your help to reach out, because getting the word to people when they need to hear it and as often as they can, so that we've tracked how people hear about our service, and the #1 way they hear about us is through their friends or family. So if you ever have a chance to bring this up, do, and have them pass it on to others and ask them to be ambassadors as well. And that's the same for your library program. Ask people who come in to share the information with their neighbors, because there's a lot of people in the town, which I still find unbelievable, that don't know that there's a library in their town and all the wonderful things that are available, like your computers, your databases, your recorded books, as well as your books and your videos and all that type of thing. So we have about 25 minutes left. If you have any questions or ideas, Sharon Ruda might be online listening to this. I have one former staff member who's listening and one current staff member it is. So if I can't answer a question, they may be able to type in, and Louise can read their answers if I can't answer.
Sure. We do have a couple questions, well, one question and a comment. So the question is, to be an ambassador, is there an institutional account for BARD in order to demonstrate how to download the books?
Yes, there is. And if you're a public library, there's like 3 demo books that you can download to show somebody how to do it, explain how to do it. If you're working with the patron and show them how to do it, you can use they have to sign up for an account before they can download books. You could show them how to download books for themselves.
And then the comment comes from Fox River Grove. She says, it has been amazing how many people have told us they know someone who has a visual disability since we received their demo player. So, having that demo player is a good talking point,
Oh, cool. That's nice to hear.
So that's all the questions we have right now. I mean, we can give it just a couple more minutes, can type those in. Thank you so much, Rose, today for your time and sharing more information about this really important service. And
as I'm talking to people, a lot of times, I'll meet people who I've told you are a little resistant to doing it quite yet because they're still feeling pretty independent. But I always tell them to be an ambassador for the program, because since I've been involved with this program, actually my whole life I've been aware of a lot of people who need the service. And there are people out there, if you're elderly, you have friends that need the service. And if you haven't reached out to them and found out what's wrong and even thought of it in that context, you need to pass the word around. I have an aunt with macular degeneration. My mother was just diagnosed with it. She doesn't need it and is unlikely to need it in her lifetime, but there are an incredible amount of people that need this service. And, just engage people in conversation and just talk about it, and you might be surprised what comes up. Especially somebody who's not coming in any longer. That might be a time to reach out or just mention something that, bring it up without bringing it up. Like, it looks to me that you can't see. That's not something you probably should say. But we do have other services that you might want to try.
Right. Another question came in. At this person's library, a patron has asked if the digital machine has any fire hazard issues.
You mean like Samsung and some of the things that have happened with them? No, we've never heard of anything like that. It's self-contained. You wouldn't be changing the battery. You would send it in to do that. There's no fire hazards that we're aware of. We've never heard of anything.
And it's not electrical, it's battery powered, right? So
well, you recharge the batteries. When it's plugged in, I wouldn't throw a glass of water at the plug-in.
All right. Well, really great questions. Again, thank you, Rose, for doing this today. We did record today's session, and Rose will be sharing her PowerPoint with me, and I'll be posting the recording on the Rails CE Archives page within the next day or two. It's really quick. And so you can share this with your colleagues at your library. And, I'll encourage everyone to check out the IllinoisTalkingBooks.org website this summer and download all that information before the service transitions. And please contact Rose and her staff if you have questions. So any parting words, Rose?
It's been a pleasure working with you. It's an honor to serve these patrons and all the patrons in Illinois, and we look forward to talking to you if you have any questions. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Bye.